Hi, everyone. Welcome back to AI for Kids. Today, we have an incredible guest. Please welcome Nicolas Gertler, a student and AI expert from Yale University. Nicholas, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you love working with AI or artificial intelligence?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Amber. It's great to speak with you. So, my name is Nicolas Gertler. I'm initially from Los Angeles, California, and I'm now a student at Yale University studying cognitive science, which, for those who don't know, cognitive science is essentially studying the mind from a sort of multifaceted perspective. So, thinking about computer science, philosophy, linguistics, psychology, anthropology, and neuroscience as well. And I'm really interested in exploring artificial intelligence because I think it's going to have such a tremendous impact on our lives, and we already sort of see all the ways it's impacting us, from tools like ChatGPT to image detectors or image algorithms like Midjourney and things like that. But what really instigated and inspired my interest in AI was when I watched a really cool documentary on YouTube about how AI is affecting so many different fields, from
Mm.
prosthetics to farming, and even AI that is searching for aliens. So I
Oh,
realized
wow.
that it was having such a broad impact on society, and I really wanted to figure out how we could harness this technology to create more engaged and enriched learning experiences for students. So that's my focus.
So you use all these big stretch words for us like neurology, anthropology. How would you break that down in an easier way? What is neurology about? What is anthropology about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, anthropology is essentially studying culture,
Okay.
and how that's so for those who don't know, culture is thinking about the different social forces that affect us.
Mhm.
It's actually a really complicated term thinking about it, but if you think about, for example, how different movies and media and different ways in which people interact affect how we move through the world. It's
Mhm.
really interesting to think about that. So, studying cognitive science and artificial intelligence within cognitive science is really thinking about how all these different factors throughout different sort of throughout our lives affect how we think about technology.
I love that. And what about neurology? What does that mean? Or neuroscience,
Yes,
excuse me.
yeah, so neuroscience is essentially thinking about how different processes in our brain work.
Mhm.
So, for example, thinking about how a specific part of our brain is responsible for different tasks and functions.
Mhm.
And that is a huge part of studying artificial intelligence, because when we're trying
Okay.
to emulate what intelligence is when we're trying to emulate what intelligence means for us, one of our first sort of ground truths that we look to is studying the human brain. So thinking about
Mm.
how complex of an organism that is,
Oh, yeah.
and thinking about how we still don't know so much, and just how when we're trying to build intelligence, there's so many unknowns. And I think that's really exciting for students today and for kiddos today who are interested in AI. It's such a new field in terms of recent advancements that have come out. There's so much more to study. And I think that's really exciting for people who are interested in thinking about how we can use this technology to live more enriched lives and have better learning experiences, or affect an area of our lives such as farming or something in which we are interested in.
Speaking of two things, brain and study. What was your favorite subject when you were a kid? Did you always like technology?
Yeah, so I've always sort of had a knack for technology. I've always loved thinking about how we can solve different problems that we're facing. So my sort of introduction to technology was just simple IT support. So I always
Mhm.
loved playing with different Apple products, for example.
Okay.
And I supported a lot of my different teachers when I was in elementary school with thinking about how they can solve different tech issues that they were facing in the
So cool.
classroom. So yeah, so for example, if like the projector wasn't working, or something like that. Before they would call tech support, they knew that I was sort of had a knack for this, and they would ask me to support them. But what that really led to, in terms of my work in artificial intelligence, is taking those simple problem solving techniques that I
Mm,
started to work on in elementary school, and I turned
mhm,
that into a passion for understanding technical systems and learning how to code. But I think a really exciting thing about AI is you don't need to know how to code, or you don't need to have a lot of technical skills in order
mm,
to engage with it. The systems that we have today that perhaps many of you have heard of or interacted, all they take is just natural language in order to talk with them. So you're able to talk with an AI like you're talking to a human, and it's able to give you responses that make you think, wow, what am I talking to? Is this a human or is this an
right.
AI? And it's pretty easy to feel like some sort of similarity in talking with an AI system in a way that feels natural.
And what was your favorite subject?
Oh yes, my favorite subject was it was actually always English.
Ah,
And so I had this knack for technology, but
mhm,
I really loved English because I love thinking about different stories and different pathways in which stories could unfold.
oh,
And
yeah.
I think this really relates to my passion for AI, because even though English isn't a very technical field like computer science
Mhm,
is, the fact that I love thinking about writing and about storytelling
mhm.
influences how I think about our interaction with artificial intelligence systems. So, for example, when I'm trying to prompt an artificial intelligence system, I
What
think
does
about how to
prompting
tell a
mean?
story. Yeah, so prompting means talking with AI systems um, in a way where we want to communicate the task that we want the artificial intelligence system to do. So if I want an AI system to help me write some code, I
Mhm.
can just describe what I want that code to do, break it down into steps, and then send that to the AI system, and then it'll be able to execute something. So prompting is really just talking to AI systems.
Love it. That's a very, like, good example. I just need to say that to adults as well. I love that. If you could actually have I asked this question of some of our guests. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Mm. I would say honestly, it would be the superpower to understand the brain. And I know that's not
Mm.
really what instantly comes to mind when even I think of superpowers, but because we're
No, but I
talking
like it.
about because we're talking about AI here,
Mhm.
we're also interested in understanding what really makes us human. How does our
Yeah.
brain work? How do we function? And that's sort of, a question that's still ongoing. There's so much more research and work that needs to be done in neuroscience. But
Mhm.
as we build other intelligent systems, we fundamentally are also interested in understanding ourselves. So if I had the ability to understand the mind and have a good
Right.
grasp of what makes us human, I feel like we can impart some of those values to then making AI systems that
Mhm.
also share the same values that we do. And I think that's something really important. Another sort of key term that I'll raise is AI alignment. So ensuring that AI systems have the same value as human systems is
Interesting.
something that's a really important area of research that I think a lot of people and a lot of students who are watching this may find some interest in.
Oh, yeah, and I've never heard that term before. So even me, I'm learning a good amount about what it means to think about AI and humans together. And when you mentioned earlier about things like anthropology and neuroscience, which is basically humans, the brain, and these aspects, how they all connect together to help us to understand AI beyond what we understand it currently is really fascinating. And I think that kind of gets into your role at Yale University. What does it mean to be Yale's AI ambassador? Like I'm now getting new terms that are associated with AI all the time now. So anytime I see a new term, I'm like, what does that mean? What do you do in the role? So if you can explain about that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as the AI ambassador at Yale, my core goal is essentially to work with students, faculty, and administration to think about what role we want AI to have in our classrooms and our work.
Okay.
So, what that means is I talk with faculty about ways in which we can incorporate AI into teaching and learning, how it
Oh
can
wow.
enable students to be more enriched and engaged. and as well as how we can have a transparent environment about AI. I think this is so important as AI is certainly part of how of the systems through which we access information and through which we consume information and think about organizing information. So if it's a core part of our lives now, as we see with tools like ChatGPT,
Oh,
how
yeah.
can we enable students in classrooms to use AI to help them research or to use AI to help them brainstorm or use AI to help them create an image that is related to the project that they're presenting.
Hmm.
So essentially, what are the ways in which we can integrate AI into education, into our classrooms in a way that
Okay.
supports students towards having more interesting and engaged learning experiences?
Very cool. I really like that. And it's something that I'm sure other schools are hopefully also thinking about. How did you first get interested in AI to even know that you wanted to be an AI ambassador? And to help people literally understand this thing that has been around for some time, but it's really gotten a lot of popularity due to tools like ChatGPT.
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey with AI started around 5 years ago
Okay.
when I saw a YouTube video about AI's effect on so many different areas in the world, such as finding aliens and
Mhm.
thinking about farming and prosthetics. So it was really
Okay.
just an experience in which I saw that there was this big technology and it was going to have such an enormous impact on people's lives. And from there, I started learning to code in Python in order
Nice.
to build AI systems.
Mhm.
And as I continued my work in the AI space, I realized I was so fascinated with thinking about how AI is going to affect society
Okay.
and the large scale implications that it would have beyond just developing the technology. So that's when I sort of transitioned to working more on policy and thinking a lot about these issues in a way that was about how can we ensure that humans have a lot of power and agency in deciding what our role with AI will be in the future. So I saw a huge opportunity in education after ChatGPT came out to say that this is something that a lot of students are probably going to turn to, and that it's really important that as educators, as institutions, that we equip students with the tools in order to be able to use ChatGPT in a way that helps their learning
Mhm.
rather than replaces it. So I started working with organizations like IncoJustice, which I'm still associated with, and IncoJustice focuses on youth empowerment for AI. So we're a
Oh, wow.
coalition of youth advocating for human-centered and safe AI. Our approach is that we want to ensure that youth who are most impacted by AI technology have a voice, have a seat at the table, and that they are part of these decisions. So as I started exploring this space further and I got
Mhm.
to Yale, I reached out to the administration, said would love to collaborate on this work. And they said it would be great to have student voice in this area. So I
Oh,
essentially
wow.
collaborated with them, and I'm really enjoying the role. I One of the biggest things I encourage is for students to explore AI, understand what it means, and see what role and think about what role you want it to have in your community.
So you created your position, sounds like, right? Okay, so
Yes.
how can other kids also go and be an AI ambassador? How can I know you're not a kid, but how can looked at AI when you were under 18 for the first time? So how can kids who are younger become AI ambassadors?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to note that if students are interested in AI, there are so many different paths in which you can
Mm-hmm.
take in the AI space. So you can focus more on building systems, on coding, on the technical aspects of AI. You can also focus on policy. And within these two areas, you can think about AI's role in democracy, AI's role in
Hmm.
education,
Hmm.
AI's role in criminal justice.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
so many different subsets of AI that students can explore, which I think is exciting because it's affecting everything. So
Yeah.
figuring out where you want to be, where you want to play a role is really interesting to think about. But for students who are interested in becoming AI ambassadors, I would say think a lot about how you're currently using AI as a tool
Hmm.
right now and how that's something that you could advocate for with your school.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you're finding that AI, you're using AI to help you learn, you can think about talking with your school administration and saying, hey, we should be able to co create these policies around AI, not just in this particular classroom, but as a school. Get
Oh yeah.
involved in that advocacy and have that conversation with administrators. And then as that conversation continues to grow, you can
Hmm.
think about how you can play a core role in facilitating discussions between students and faculty in this work.
I love that. I love the idea of meeting kids where they are and being able to go to your student, I mean, your teachers, the principal, or your guidance counselor and say, hey, I have this really cool idea. I want to help ensure whenever we decide, if we're already using it or whenever we decide to use AI, we have what we need and we're part of the conversation. I love that idea. And thank you for sharing that. And
Of course.
one of the other cool things I like about some of the work you're doing is that you actually lead workshops to talk about a thing called AI ethics, and you try to help people learn about it. First, before we dig into it, can you explain AI ethics in a way that a kid can understand?
Absolutely. So AI ethics is essentially thinking about what role artificial intelligence is going to have in society.
Mm,
So if as a we think of AI as a tool that has a lot of capability and will have
oh,
a
yeah.
lot of impact on society. So it's important to think about how that may affect the job market, what skills students will have. Will they be working with AI tools in their roles in the
Mhm,
job market?
mhm.
Absolutely. They're going to be collaborating with AI and using it in a way that accelerates their work.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking about what role AI has on how we think about different um, how we access different information and the ways in which that can either constrain us in getting access
Mhm,
to information or expand the ways in which we're able to understand this information. So it's essentially thinking about what ethical and societal role that AI will have
mhm.
on all of us.
I love that. And it's just so important for us as adults to think about it. But I know it's also important for kids to think about AI ethics. Why is it important for them to learn about a topic like AI ethics and how this thing interacts with the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Given that students today are the most impacted by
Hmm.
decisions that are being made by AI, we don't just want this to be a tool that we're embracing without understanding the full effects of the technology. So if we
Hmm.
have students who are thinking about questions like how is AI going to affect the workforce? How is it going to affect my job? How is
Right.
AI going to affect how I learn? How is my privacy being protected when I'm
Hmm.
interacting with AI systems? Things like that. Thinking about the questions of not just what does the surface level technology do, but what does it mean
Right.
for us? And then once we have those thought processes in which students are thinking about what role we want AI, that's then a lever or a lever for change that students can employ in order to say, hey, I'm actually not comfortable with AI being used in this way.
There you go.
I don't want it to infringe on my privacy, and I don't want it to be used in a way that's not helping my learning and instead just
Hmm.
short circuiting it. So once students are part of these conversations, then they can have change on a larger scale.
So, what it sounds like you're talking about is that kids need to be a little bit something we call AI literate, right? What does AI literacy mean? And then why is it important for kids to have some level of AI literacy? Like we know what literacy is, it's like our ability to read and understand concepts, but what does it mean when you apply that term to AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI literacy is the ability to use AI technologies and applications in a way that's beneficial to us. And it also includes the term of AI ethics, which I just brought up. It's
Oh
also
yeah.
not just being able to use these tools well, but also thinking about the impacts of using these tools. So it's really important that people are AI literate because AI technologies are already a core part of how we navigate the world, and it's only going to increase from here. If you think about a tool like Disney Plus or Netflix,
Mhm.
where you're going to watch content, there's a lot of AI technologies that are already embedded into these systems that affect how we find in content and watch content. If you think about tools like Instagram and Twitter or X, Threads, things of this nature, TikTok as well, they have
Mhm.
AI that is foundationally affecting what content you watch. So thinking
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
understanding not just how does the technology work, but also what does this mean for how I put what does this mean for where I put my attention? What does this mean for what I focus on? It's essentially thinking about how we can have the full picture of first, how does the
Mhm.
technology work? And second, how does this technology impact me and my community?
Thank you for that, because I love the way you explain that and break that down, and also remind the kids that they're already interacting with AI, whether it's through social media channels or watching different streaming services, like you said, Disney Plus, Netflix, that literally say, "We think you like this." That is AI behind it. So thank you for breaking that down for them. I know we talked a little bit about chatbots earlier, and I wanted to tell everyone listening that you actually created one. Can you tell us about it and how you believe your AI helps people learn about AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So the chatbot that I created essentially is a tool for people to learn about philosophy and about AI ethics, which is what we just talked about.
What is
So
philosophy?
So philosophy, ooh, this is a hard one.
No
Philosophy is
worries.
essentially philosophy is the study of what it means to be human.
Mm,
I guess that's a simple way that I could break it down. So we want to. So the goal of the chatbot is to teach people about philosophy and about
mhm.
AI ethics.
Okay.
And so we want to give people the knowledge of, or sorry, with this chatbot, we want people to be able to learn about these topics in a way in which
Mhm.
it's very accessible. So we
Okay.
realize that a lot of important information about philosophy, so understanding what it means to be human, and about AI ethics, so understanding what it means to use these technologies and the impacts of these technologies, we realize that a lot of information that talks about this was in academic circles and
Ah,
areas that a lot of students like you wouldn't ordinarily receive access to. So one of the things that we wanted to do is create a free tool whereby anyone could just go on this website, ask a question about AI ethics or
mm,
philosophy or a
mhm.
similar area and get an answer that is from one of the leading voices in AI ethics
Oh, wow.
and philosophy. So it's trained, which essentially means it's rather than just being a general purpose AI system or large language model, as you might call it, it specifically has all of the information that a particular scholar has written about this. So
So
if you
cool.
think about like all the information, all the ideas that are there, you put that into a chatbot and then people can talk to it. People can say, hey, what does AI mean? What impacts will AI have on the workforce? What does it mean for AI to be integrated into social media? What does it mean to be human even, foundational
Mhm.
questions, and it'll share some insights about that. And we think that's really important because as we move towards a world where AI is already a part of how we
Oh,
interact
yeah.
with it, but also it's becoming a bigger part, we want people to know, hey, these are really complex questions. Let's give you a
Mhm.
good starting point to think through them.
I love that. So 2 questions. What is the name of the bot? And then who is the philosopher you all are basing it off of or trained it
Absolutely.
on?
Yeah, so the name of the bot is the Luciano Fleury bot,
Ah,
affectionately named Luflot bot,
okay.
which is just the nickname.
Mhm.
So all of the work that the chatbot is trained on, which essentially is fed into the chatbot's data, is based off the work of Luciano Floridi, who is
Hmm.
one of the world's most cited philosophers
Oh yeah.
and actually created the term philosophy of information in the 1990s. So he's been thinking about this even before I was born, even before a lot of people were talking about AI and about technology having such a big impact. And we think it's really important with this chatbot because it shows by being able to access chatbot, you can ask questions and receive information about literature he wrote 10 years ago and about literature he
Mm.
wrote now. So it's really
Oh wow.
interesting as well to see how the ideas have evolved, the conversations have changed, but how ultimately they all build on each other. This tool equips you with the knowledge to be able to think through these really hard questions.
Okay, so how can young people and their guardians use this and learn more about AI? Where do they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So the chatbot is as simple as to use a chatbot, all you have to do is go to the website lucianoflurity.com/bot.
And
From
we'll put it in
there,
the show notes so parents, you don't have to remember that.
excellent. And then from there, once you go to the chatbot, it will share a little bit of information about it, how it works, what are some limitations as an AI model. We're talking about AI, and I think it's an important footnote to add here that AI has so many limitations. It's ultimately just a statistical model that's predicting the next word and the next sentence. So it
Mhm.
doesn't really have the same understanding as humans do, which is important when we're building these systems to compare how do we think as humans, how do AI think as humans, and they complement each other. But once students or parents access this chatbot, they're able to ask any question or generate a question using the generate a question button. So if they're
Okay,
not
cool.
really sure where to start, they can ask it one of those questions that we've prepared. And then from there, they can get an answer about whatever they're wondering about philosophy or about AI.
That is so cool. I love that you have like the place where you can say generate a question for me for people who don't understand where to start because some people have never played with these chatbots and sometimes it's a little intimidating. So being able to literally do this alongside your parent or parents being able to do this and at least have it start with questions, it can help to kick off other questions that you should add or think about. So I love that you all add that in there. And we'll definitely put the website in the show notes for parents as well as their kids to check out. And I wanted to shift a little bit of the conversation, not fully, but one of the things I admired about you is that you wrote a plan to help schools use AI in teaching. And some places are banning AI, some places aren't. So, like, it literally is all over the board with how schools are thinking about using AI. How can AI make learning more fun and interesting for kids? I would love to hear more about the plan and how you think folks can use this thing to help our youth as they're learning about a lot of different subjects.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote this AI and education plan in around June of 2023, so about a year ago from now. And
Nice.
although so much has changed in the education space, thinking about AI's role, a lot of the core principles still hold up. First, it's
Mhm.
important that we facilitate and foster a transparent environment around AI so that people, such as students and their instructors, can have honest and open conversations about how they're using them. We don't want this to be a tool that anyone views as an adversary, but rather as a tool that we're thinking about deeply and we're thinking about, hey, can this help us learn? So, as for ways in which AI is helping us learn, we think about um, tools like AI chatbots. So let's say you're studying a neuroscience, let's say you have a neuroscience exam or an anthropology exam or any subject, math, English, history.
Mhm.
What you can do is you can put your notes into the AI system and say,
Okay.
hey, could you generate some practice questions for me about
Ah,
this?
good point.
So if I'm studying US history and I just put my lecture notes, then it can spit out or it can give me some ways in which I can answer questions about US history, whether that's multiple choice or free response.
Mm.
Um, and it can also help you think through different issues. So if you want to brainstorm about a particular topic, you're feeling stuck, it can help you just begin and kickstart those ideas. Um, And it can also give you feedback on your work. So let's say you write a really interesting paragraph and you want to think about how you can make the paragraph better. You could say,
Mhm.
ask the AI, how can I make this paragraph better? What are the strengths or the weaknesses?
Oh,
And then
yeah.
from there, it'll be able to share with you, oh, maybe you want to rethink this sentence. Maybe you want to make it more clear.
Mhm.
So there are, of course, many limitations with AI and learning,
Oh, yeah.
but I think it's important I think it's important to highlight the ways in which it can help people actually learn rather than do the learning for them.
I love that because I think a lot of people are nervous about it doing the learning for them as to why some schools have banned it and why some teachers aren't inviting it into the classroom. But I love your approach of this is something we can work together. Like I'm all about humans and AI together. The things that humans do a great job that AI are probably never going to be able to recreate unless it gets to another level of AGI or AI that we don't want to talk about today. But I really want folks to keep the creativity, to keep the things that matter to us, and think about this as another tool that they layer on to help them be able to do the things they really want to do. For me, like I use AI to help with things you just mentioned. Like if I want to look at something I'm writing and I want to improve it, I use it to help me learn and to kind of tutor me on some things that I may would maybe would talk about with a colleague, but since right now we're mostly remote, I don't have a colleague who I can like walk up to say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Now I can literally just say to the AI, "Hey, what do you think about this? How should I improve this? Did I miss anything? How else should I approach it?" And I think having that approach, like you said, and making it a learning environment where we're working together makes it a totally different story, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So keeping that in mind, if kids want to be involved in possibly getting their school to think about AI, what are some ways they can use your plan to help bring that to the attention of teachers and administrators?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like it's first important to note that there are a lot of negative ways in which AI is being deployed in schools.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things we think a lot about is AI detectors,
Hmm.
and how work is being put through AI algorithms in
So
order
true.
to determine if it was AI generated or human generated. So first of all, if this happens to you, there are a couple really important things to keep in mind.
Mm.
First of all, a lot of research shows that AI detectors actually unfairly label human generated text as AI generated text.
Hmm.
Um, and Unfortunately, a lot of these systems are biased in a way where it flags neurodiverse and ESL learners more
Oh,
frequently
wow. Okay.
than non-neurodiverse and non-ESL learners.
Okay.
So that's really problematic, right? Because
Hmm.
we want to think about ways in which AI can support and amplify the human
Right.
spirit and the work that we do. And this is not one of those ways. And
Mm.
fundamentally, it also creates a culture of mistrust and distrust between
Hmm.
students and educators, which we want
Hmm.
to avoid. We want students and educators to come in the classroom and work together and collaborate and figure out how we can learn. So, um, thinking about, I think a first important step is where is my school in the sort of AI
Hmm.
spectrum or the AI integration wave, one might say.
Hmm.
So if your school has AI detectors, like I just mentioned, I think it's really important to start that conversation with your teacher and administration about how, hey, these tools are actually biased and they don't really work
Right.
well. They flag
Hmm.
a lot of students' work when it's actually not AI generated.
Right.
Starting to like share some of the flaws about these systems that are being deployed to police students is really
Hmm.
important. And then, as in order to build on thinking about how we can use AI in education and in the classroom, share some ways in which it's being and in which it's promoting student learning and in which it's helping you.
Good
So
point.
maybe it's one of those examples that I shared before. Maybe you wrote a paragraph and you want some feedback before you submit it to your teacher so that you
Hmm.
can really put your best work forward
Hmm.
and get another layer of feedback.
Hmm.
So you write a paragraph, you show the original, and then you show the second draft that you used AI to help you provide some feedback on, and you show you how you improved. I think a really important
Right.
thing is that a lot of what's being emphasized now in the age of in the age of AI is what is the process by which you took to get
That's a
at
good
this kind of
point.
a result, rather than focusing too much on the final product
Hmm.
and, oh, is it perfect? Oh, does it have everything? How did you grow through this learning experience? What does the first draft look like compared to the second draft? So
Oh yeah.
showing that process is really important. And just talking with teachers, having the conversations. How do you think AI can help us learn in this classroom? Maybe that's the teacher sharing ways in which they can use AI chatbots,
Hmm.
because as we know, teachers are not always available and they have a lot of demands on their time. So
Right.
if students can go home and students who say might not be able to afford a tutor can go
Oh
home
yeah.
and then
So
being
true.
able to access a chatbot that helps them study, that could help level the playing field for a lot of students out there.
Never heard anybody say that. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and another thing that's really important is, on that line of thought, we want to ensure that AI doesn't exacerbate or worsen the digital divide. We saw so
Hmm.
many students without the resources and without the fundamental tools in order to effectively learn online, and they missed a lot of school, and there were a lot of issues that prevented a lot of kids from learning. So we want to
Yeah.
think about, as we're integrating AI, this is another technology, just like the internet or another, technology that really shifted learning. So
Yeah.
how can we use this tool to ensure that students all over learn? So thinking about those considerations is really important as well.
The funny thing is you made me think about how when the web or internet first came out, because even then we were like chatting or emailing and going to web pages, how a lot of people were like, no, you can't use this because they're going to find the answer and they're going to look up the answer. And then now, like, if you don't use the internet, you're out of luck. Or when calculators developed from being just like four function calculators to scientific calculators. The kids are going to cheat using the scientific calculators. Like it's always been this thing of like the first reaction is how do we stop it versus what you said here is like how do we ensure the kids are learning and developing a skill and enhancing from it? Because cheating happens in any environment with or without technology. Like it's been happening since the dawn of man in some way, shape, or form. So when new technology is added, this gives us a chance as humans, back to as we think a lot about anthropology and those words, it gives us a chance to be a human that's our best self and possibly not do the task we as humans may not need to do anymore because we have a new tool. Like no one is, unless you're in certain fields, most people aren't doing long form math anymore just because they don't have to. You should know how to get there if you need to do that and things like that. But there are certain skill sets that you may not need depending on your field. And I think having access and understanding that these are tools to help enhance humans being able to focus on what we're amazing at, I think is something I always want to point out. So thank you for that. Um, I want to ask you one quick question before we get into our fun segment. If you want to share any projects that you're possibly working on right now that you're really excited about, I would love to hear it.
Absolutely. So what I'm working right now is a tool that helps students write with the power of AI. What
Ah,
we found is a lot of students struggle in determining how to effectively use AI to collaborate, and
mhm.
they're using it in ways that don't actually harness the full capabilities of AI technology. And it fundamentally comes back to what we were talking about before. There are a lot of students are not AI literate yet,
Yeah.
and they don't really have an understanding to use these tools. So I'm working on a way in which we can create an AI writing co-pilot, so to say, that helps students write without short-circuiting the learning process, without taking away the parts in which students grow and develop their ideas. So how can AI handle a lot of the more structural and organizational tasks and help you manage your cognitive load so that you're really focused on these ideas and about progressing this forward rather than worrying about where the research is, where my notes are, how I get to my thesis. We're essentially trying to help guide you through this process so you can focus more on what's important.
That is so cool. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Is it available yet, or are you still working on it?
So I'm still developing the
Okay.
technology right now, but gonna hopefully be available in the next couple of months as we build it out. So there'll be a beta launch and everything. And I just want to circle back to something really important you said before with the calculator.
Mhm.
I think that's an amazing example because, as you mentioned, so many educators and so many students as well were worried about its impact on
Oh,
their
yeah.
learning. They thought it was going to destroy math instruction. What we
Mhm.
see today is there are a lot of assessments that incorporate the calculator. There are
Oh,
also
yeah.
assessments that don't incorporate the calculator, and
Mhm.
they're meant to test different skills.
Mhm.
So if we think about AI in that sort of way, though AI affects not just math, but all different
Right.
fields and areas of learning, we could think about how maybe, prioritizing in class assessments in which students are asked to write live, but
Mhm.
also supplementing that with students working outside the classroom and using AI to help them brainstorm and AI to help them um, revise their work, thinking about all the different skills we want to test and we want to evaluate and we want to equip students with the knowledge to be able to do both, to be able to think without AI, but
Oh, yeah.
also use it as something that can help them broaden their horizons of what they're writing about.
I love it. Thank you so much for going into that a little bit deeper. We're going to play a quick game and then we have a few more questions before we wrap up. So, our quick game is called Tech Trivia. I'm going to ask you some fun questions about technology and you have to answer them as quickly as you can. Kids at home, you can also play along. So, don't think about it, just whatever the answer is, say it. What year was AI created?
The year that AI was coined was in, I think, around 1960s. But more recent AI, what is called generative pre-trained transformers, or I should say transformers, was in a paper in, I think, around 2017. Um,
I don't remember the year
yeah.
for that one. So the first technical use is right around the 60s. It was 1956. There also something that happened in 63, but I can't remember the data right now, so I don't want to misquote, but very close to that. And then like you said, the later paper came, I think it was 2017, but I don't want to misquote on that. Kids, look it up and let us know. Have your parents send us a note to let us know what the answer is. All right, second question. Hopefully they get easier. What coding language has a plus in its name?
C++. plus plus.
There we go. Okay, great. Thank you. So that one wasn't too hard. And then last but not least, what year did the iPhone first come out?
I think it came out in 2004, the year I was born.
Nope, 2007.
Nope.
You're thinking of the
That's an
iPod. Yeah,
iPod.
because the
Yes,
iPad
that's
or
true.
excuse me, iPhone came out after that. But I think you're thinking of iPod.
Mm,
Yep.
yeah.
And then we also like to do a fun bio segment. So instead of reading your bio out loud for the kids, and they may not want to hear all those cool things, we do it in a different way. So we're going to do something fun to learn a little bit about you. It's called Two Truths and a Dream. So think of two truths and a lie, but it helps kids understand your biography. But we're doing it as two truths and a dream. So you tell us two truths about your life and one dream you had as a kid, and we'll guess. In this case, I'll guess as well as the kids at home or in their car, which one is the dream. And then you just need to give me again two truths, mix them up, and then a dream.
Sounds good. So the first one I'll share is I've worked with the US Department of Education on AI in education.
Okay.
The second one I'll share is that I've spoken at a Google event around AI in education. And
Okay.
then the third one is that I've I partnered with Microsoft on integrating AI in education applications to their customers.
So I need to stop reading y'all's bios. One, but then I forgot one piece. So let me talk through my thought process really quickly so the folks who are listening can also hear. So the education thing seems right because I do know you have some background working in government. So I do believe you partner with them. I can't remember if Google or Microsoft was on your resume. So I'm trying to remember which one it is. I'm going to lean and say that the dream is Google.
The dream is actually Microsoft. So I had the
Ah,
privilege of speaking at a Google lecture, but
there we
I've
go.
yet
Okay.
to partner with Microsoft on distributing my technology. That's hopefully once I've developed
That's
my
the dream.
technology, once it's been empirically verified, once people see it's a great tool, and we can distribute it to as many people as possible.
And let us know when it happens so we can definitely update the show notes to say, hey, this dream happened, kids, and it can happen to you too. Before we go, do you have any advice for kids who may want to learn about AI or AI ethics?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy today to learn about AI. All you have to do is put in a Google search and think about how is AI affecting this field I'm interested in? Say I'm really interested in marketing. How is AI affecting marketing? How is it affecting farming? How is it affecting human interaction? How is it affecting medicine? And you
Yeah.
can see the implications. So just explore, be curious, and just continue following whatever makes you passionate, whatever makes you excited, and before you know it, you can turn those goals, those dreams into things that you've actually done and that you're proud about.
Nicholas, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to all the listeners who join us again for another episode of AI for Kids. Make sure to subscribe and please stay curious. And we will see you all in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Amber.